My sister burned me to death in my past life because my husband loved me too much, but now that we've both been reincarnated, she thinks stealing him will give her the fairy tale ending she craves. To understand why I'm letting her walk into a trap, you have to know the history of our first lives. Back then, Joan married Gilbert, the gloomy STEM genius she had chased for 4 years, only to be met with a decade of cold indifference that drove her mad. I, on the other hand, married Jonathan, the infamous playboy who miraculously reformed for me, showering me with love and wealth, until we became the envy of everyone. Consumed by jealousy, Joan set a fire at my 10th anniversary ball, killing us both. Now, we are back at the beginning, standing in front of our mother as she asks us to choose our husbands again. Joan didn't hesitate. She bypassed Gilbert and lunged for Jonathan, the rich playboy, convinced that his love and fortune were her destiny this time. Her choice confirmed my suspicion. She remembers everything. She sneered at me, warning me not to try a third take, gloating that all the love in the world was coming to her. I almost laughed. Jo didn't understand that love is the most unreliable currency in a marriage. While she preened about her beauty taming Jonathan, I quietly took Gilbert's hand. I knew exactly what I was getting into. In my previous life, Jonathan's love started with him throwing money in my face and demanding I bring him contraceptives. While he partied with 5 women, he didn't care about beauty, he cared about submission. Joan was walking into a lion's den armed with nothing but vanity. The next day, I called Gilbert. He was as cold as ice, refusing to meet until I mentioned the one name that mattered. Jillian, his missing adopted sister. He showed up at the nightclub dressed in black, radiating hostility. I slid a contract across the table. I offered him a marriage of convenience, total freedom, and a public facade in exchange for his startup partnering with mine. He sneered at my proposal, but I knew I had the leverage to make him sign. And unlike Joan, I wasn't looking for love, I was looking for an empire. He smashed a wine bottle over my head, but before I could retaliate, my fake fiancé returned and kicked him to the ground, proving that while he might not love me, he definitely hated losing. To understand why this night turned violent, you have to witness the calculated dance I was playing. Gilbert signed the marriage contract only because I dangled the secret of his missing sister, Jillian. Like bait, I left the table early, forcing him to follow me, and led him straight into a confrontation with my sister, Joan, and her playboy, fiancé, Jonathan. Joan was gloating, clinging to Jonathan and mocking me for failing to win. Gilbert over, oblivious to the fact that Jonathan was surrounded by models. I fired back with a warning about STDs, and when I tried to link arms with Gilbert to save face, he pulled away and walked off, leaving me humiliated. Joan laughed until she choked, and Jonathan, emboldened by my rejection, offered to sleep with me as a consolation. When I called him dirty, his mask slipped. He swung a wine bottle at my head, a reminder of the abuse I suffered in my past life, the abuse the world never saw behind our model couple facade. Blood trickled down my forehead, and Joan slapped me, defending her abuser. I grabbed an ashtray ready to fight, but suddenly Jonathan went flying. Gilbert had returned. He kicked Jonathan to the ground with brutal efficiency, then turned his icy gaze on me, calling me a fool and a coward for not fighting back sooner. I played the damsel, collapsing into his arms. Just as Jonathan scrambled up for round 2, Gilbert's bodyguards swarmed him. Gilbert looked down at the pathetic playboy like he was a maggot, reminding everyone that this was Terrasen territory. He scooped me up in a Princess Carry, not out of romance, but out of dominance, signaling that the game had officially begun. I smirked at my sister's fury as Gilbert, my fiancé, held me close, but the moment we were alone, he dropped me unceremoniously to the pavement and drove away, warning me that cheap tricks would only make him hate me more. To understand why I didn't chase his car, you have to look at the cards I was holding. Gilbert wasn't the monster my sister Joan painted him to be in our past lives. He was simply a man with zero tolerance for wasted time. I patched up my wounds and braced myself for the inevitable call from our mother. She didn't disappoint. She screamed at me for attacking Joan and her fiancé Jonathan, calling me useless trouble. This was her standard operating procedure. I spent my childhood as the family servant, desperate for a crumb of affection, only to be met with bruises. She demanded to know what wedding gift Gilbert was offering, citing the $1.5 million Jonathan's family was paying for Joan. When I told her I had no idea, she ordered me to demand payment immediately. So, I marched into Gilbert's office. He didn't even look up, giving me 5 minutes. I asked for 2 things, money and a wedding. He looked at me with an icy smile and gave me the same answer for both. Nothing most women would have crumbled. But I simply shrugged. I told him I didn't want his money or his love. I wanted his name, his status, and the business partnerships that came with being his wife. He agreed, promising me everything except affection. Days later, while I was working late with his project manager, Ronald, my mother and Joan stormed in. Joan sneered that I was a whore for working with another man, while my mother exploded when I broke the news that there would be no wedding gift. She slapped me, screaming that I was a waste of her investment. Joan joined in, slapping me repeatedly to teach me a lesson. Tears of injustice finally spilled over, but just as the assault escalated, a voice cut through the chaos like a blade of ice. Stop right now. I looked up to see Gilbert standing there, witnessing the abuse I had hidden for years, and for the first time, his gaze wasn't filled with indifference. Welcome to share your feelings in the comments section. Remember to like and subscribe, and if you want to see more story content, please check out the other videos on my channel.